Hey everybody, welcome to Here's Out. I am Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. Pretty damn good. I, there's no other way to say it. This is real Batman week. We've got The Batman coming out. It's yet another Batman adaptation portrayal, another actual Batman, another shortening of the Batman name to Battinson. We had Batfleck. We never had Bat Kilmer.
Kilmer is good. I was going to try Valman, but
Valentin,
that's
yeah. Ooh, I like it. And then, of course, there's just everybody goes Michael Keaton because that was most people's first movie Batman. Lest we forget that Adam West did such a famous job on TV. Now, why we're talking about Batman is obviously movies coming out, and don't we just love a wee bit of analytics tickling? Tickle them with us, folks. Like, subscribe, share, ring bells, do all that good stuff. Tell your friends. But more importantly than that, we're not going to do a review, a preview, trailer review, what we think is going to happen in the movie. No, we're going to take a complete zag to the left, possibly annoy a load of people, but have some fun between ourselves. And that is talking about whether or not Batman is. How should I put this? Is he really a hero if he's just a bit of a violent, crazy person? Or is he really just on the right side of things? Um, I think that's a really flimsy way to put the discussion together. But yeah, Batman, hero or psycho? So,
yeah. I think that's the best thing. Yeah, it's more the fact that is Batman like an angel, a guardian angel, or a demon on the side of angels? I guess is the way to put it.
well, there will be no prosecution or defense in this particular thing. We're gonna knock it right and have fun. And Paul, I'm gonna start off by just simply mentioning that no matter what way you look at Batman, you've got Bruce Wayne and you've got Batman. You've got that dual identity. And the question is it really Bruce Wayne or is it really Batman? Which is the cover identity sometimes? Well, it's obviously the one that involves a rubber or leather suit, to be fair. Because Bruce Wayne, as a young fella, before we say anything to besmirch his character, he had some trauma. And boy, oh boy, did they hit him with that trauma repeatedly in every portrayal that they could. Essentially, he's lost his parents in all of the films so far. Has it been shown? No, it wasn't shown for Ben. Was it shown for Ben
It
Affleck's?
was.
Oh, well,
It was
it
like so.
was actually, yeah.
It wasn't like so. The Batman versus Superman one was probably the best one
Yeah,
in the sense that they didn't overly do it a lot, kind of thing. So like
yeah.
it was a lot more cut down kind of thing, which is great because yeah, like Spider Man, he is like the most like his backstory is done the most, and like in every film he's done. There's a film called The Dark Knight Returns. It's an animated movie, where they show it like 3 or 4 times about his parents getting killed,
Oh,
and you're
wow.
just like, oh, come on, we know,
Yeah.
like, but
I
it's
know it's silly, but I kind of feel sorry for Bruce Wayne more and more because I know it's all fantasy and they're all different portrayals, but I'm like, oh God, do we have to make another child actor crouch beside a dead body and scattered pearls everywhere? This is this is getting kind of grim. We definitely know it. It's kind of like Uncle Ben with the whole great power comes great responsibility. Also, Ben, duck or run or get out of the car or do whatever you have to do because it doesn't end well for you. Um, yeah, in the question of whether or not this created a engine for vengeance or actually just traumatized a child who had means and dedication to become very, very dangerous as a crime fighter. And does he tip over the edge? Does he ever tip over the edge? Or is he always tipping over the edge? Vigilante justice? That's a whole big question. So I'm not going to ascribe to yes or no to vigilantism as an idea. But when it comes to a superhero, I think the word hero is doing an awful lot of heavy lifting there.
well, this is one of the interesting things. I don't think Batman is a superhero.
Well, yeah, he's not super for starters.
Yeah, I think that he's a hero, anti-hero, or vigilante. He is one of those three kind of things, depending on where we depict him in the scale of psychopathicness, I guess, which is I just made up. But back to just quickly to your point of the child trauma thing.
Yeah.
Um, so his father's the CEO of Wayne Enterprises. He is going to become the de facto inheritance CEO of Wayne Enterprises, and as we know, the majority of CEOs or people who own companies and stuff like that are seen as having very psychopathic kind of traits.
They
So
always score highly on the psychopath test when successful business people are tested. Yeah.
So my interest in the kind of like his parents getting murdered and him having a tragedy happen to him and trauma. I wonder what happens. Would he like if his parents weren't brutally murdered in front of him? Would he, when he became the CEO and they tested him, would he scale high on the psychopathic list like all the other CEOs? Because that would mean that he would have a predisposition to kind of what he goes through and what he becomes, kind of, you know what I mean?
I absolutely do know what you mean, and my brain was going, well, the Nolan Batman, Christian Bale, he would definitely score highly, but that's just because Christian Bale, and I'm like, well, there's American Psycho right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Without the trauma, would he have still been? Would he still have had powerful tendencies? Let's say. That's a good one. I'm going to throw over the comments really quickly, because I see Bruce saying digging Paul's t-shirt. Myself and Paul both had the close moment earlier on. By the way, we do own one each.
We don't share it.
Because I know I've worn it in other ones. We don't swap it. We just try and not be wearing the same t-shirt.
It's a timeshare t-shirt.
Yeah, it would be hilarious because I would stretch it out of all proportion for you. It's terrible. Popculture says the picture from the top that's on screen right now is actually from Batman v Superman. You're right, absolutely. And we've got Derpy Gaming saying, hello gentlemen, I've seen the new film. Well then, if you wouldn't mind keeping it on the complete lowdown, I don't think any of our other live viewers right now will have. So spoiler free zone if you please. Also, this is not directly related to the Pattinson Batman or the brand new The Batman. I think the concept of whether or not, how would you decide? So let's take the parents off the table, and let's just call out that he's an angry dude in all his portrayals. There's a fair amount of anger. Batman is not. He's an incredible detective, incredibly smart guy, world's greatest detective that happens to have £1 billion in the bank, or billions in the bank, depending on what time you're doing your calculations for inflation. There's still one other underlying thing about Batman, and that is a certain amount of rage. Has there ever been a portrayal of Batman that doesn't have, even like Adam West had that edge of clenched fist and what I'm going to do to you when I get you, Cesar Romero?
No, he definitely. I think as part of it, a part of his character and stuff like that, he's got to have anger issues. He's got to be a rage kind of thing, and I think it's built from the like, even not going like we have. It is the built upon foundation of his parents being like lost, but it is that anger towards the system failing him and his parents, and the system being law enforcement and also the governance of Gotham itself, kind of thing. Because and then also criminals themselves taking being forced or choosing that kind of life kind of thing. But I don't think there is in any way a portrayal of Batman, comic book, animated, or film that would portray him in any kind of not without any kind of anger issue kind of thing. I think it is one of the 4 pillars of his personality.
It's fundamental to the character.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And you know what? We stand corrected in some ways. Popculture just shouted in, Batman is super genius. So his super is his intellect in that sense. And also I would say he's a super dedicated guy. Because I don't know about you, if I had that amount of money, don't get me wrong, it would be great getting somebody else to build my perfect Batmobile and all that. But this guy has some serious dedication. There are no lazy Batmen. I'm sure there's some universe somewhere they had the lazy Batman and he didn't last long. But fair play, super dedicated as well. But again, where's the line between driven by your vengeful rage and giving in to enjoying some of your own tendencies? Because and again, so we got some rage, but we've got some punchy stuff in here from classic Baff, Zip, Zoink, and Boom to wanting to really wanting to kill Superman. Superman's not exactly the top of everybody's their bad people list unless you happen to already be a villain. Like Batman is out there kind of going, the guy that everybody thinks is lovely. Yeah, I'm gonna try and kill him. He doesn't just have rage; he has violent rage.
Oh yeah, like one of his tendencies is his disposition towards violence, kind of thing. Now and then the different levels of portrayal of that, because like in Ben Affleck's portrayal of him, or DC's kind of universe portrayal of him, he is quite brutal. He does remind me more of the Batman Returns element to him, which is he's fairly violent. He's one of the most violent, brutal kind of ones of the Batman portrayal. I think Patterson's Batman is going to be more so.
Yes.
But yeah, like it levels on a different kind of scale, kind of thing. So like, and I think, and as our point is before we were talking, I think as you get more real, as you move to the more realistic version of him, I think the brutality becomes more and more clear. So that's a good kind of, I guess, scale to put it on.
So we've got to cover two things there then, because we really do. I guess we have to bring that scale from West to Robert Pattinson, let's say. But also we've got to deal with, is he scratching an itch with his vengeance? Is this one of those things where it's a case of, I want to go and fight crime because crime is wrong, and to make an omelette you have to break a few eggs or throw a few guys off buildings and assume that they're fine. It's this whole thing of Batman doesn't kill people. Batman doesn't always go and check. I'm just putting it out there. Batman is fine with people being possibly critically injured, and he's just not going to be around anymore. He's not going around checking people's vertebrae, let's say. But is he scratching an itch? Because as you go on that from Adam West all the way to, let's say, what we're going to see very soon, hopefully for both of us, it's not just the realism. The closer you get to the real world, the more frightening the idea is. But also, the portrayal has also amped it up to where it does start feeling like he's being portrayed as somebody with a tendency that he needs, a release he needs to have. That's why the punches are getting harder. That's why it's not just a quip and then, kicking somebody and tying them up and tying them to a lamppost. There's a lot of, I'm going to hop you off the ground a few times.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely a need kind of thing. It's like a what would that be called?
A compulsion.
Compulsion, yeah. He definitely has a compulsion disorder as well towards violence and towards, I would say, justice in a sort of way, as in getting people locked up. Is probably one of his compulsions, but I would also say that his outbursts of violence, although controlled, I will say that controlled a lot, would be those elements. Though I also think that the violence. Do you think that the violence of Batman also increases as violence on screen has become more normal? Because that's another thing. So yes. This is the betrayed on screen Batman kind of thing. Because I do believe that we have to go darker and darker in Batman.
I think that's absolutely it. And in fact, I think because Michael Keaton's Batman was actually possibly surprisingly dark for some people because of what the TV series had, what Adam West Batman was. Brightly coloured tights. And then it was full gothic, Gotham, noir, other than a flash of yellow around the emblem here and there, it was dark, 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 dark. And within 10 years, we had Joel Schumacher neoning the crap out of things. I don't know if there was a 2-for-1 special on neon bulbs when they were making that movie, but everything became ultra colorful. And I think that was one of those, the pendulum swings. I think it did that. And then it sort of found its center. I think the Nolan Batman movies are the portrayal that is closest to what you almost would expect in any generation for a realistic portrayal of Batman. Enough fantasy that, it's not real, but enough gritty reality that there's a certain sense of this could in some way be happening. Whereas now we are getting to the point where everything does skew darker. Suits me because I like that, but it's definitely a trend. And I'm going to be interested to see how Batman fares that, because it's been okay to have an anti-hero up till now. But if you have an anti-hero in the way that Batman could be in this movie, it may shock and put some people off. They may start to view Batman more as a psycho, less as the hero.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I guess there's a careful balance between the Punisher-esque anti-hero to the Batman anti-hero vigilante kind of thing, because like I guess the best way that I've ever heard Batman being described is he's the serial killer that doesn't kill.
Yeah,
in the kind of that he's methodical, attention to detail, but brutal as well, kind of thing. But I do think that it's an awful balance between those two, the Batman vigilante anti-hero kind of thing, which is and the Punisher, and I do think that we're skewing into the Punisher kind of like I guess reality of him. My worry, but I would agree that I think Christopher Nolan's and Christian Bale's portrayal of Batman in those movies, I do believe that they're the center kind of point. I do think that it's in a nicer universe than our own, even though that sounds awful.
Yeah.
Which goes and I so like it's now wondering is Patterson's Batman more on our scale, or is it more kind of like, oh, this is a super brutal world kind of thing, where this, where it's a lot more acceptable kind of thing?
And that's the question I'd throw out. To make Batman darker, do you just need to do Batman in our world? Because what Batman would mean in our world is that's unthinkably dark in a lot of ways. Yeah. Because we live in the darkest timeline. Just in case anybody hasn't noticed over the last few years, yeah, we got it. The real one is the dark one. I honestly think if you do kind of what they did with Joker, it's a real enough world, but made slightly skewed so it can't feel like it's just today, then they'll be on the safe side of things. I think the darkest portrayal of Batman would be an actual, people say gritty and real. I think if you just did real, if you had the concept of Batman with, the pillars that you talked about, his intelligence, his rage, all of these things, his means, I think that's a frightening story, because it's going to be Punisher straight away. You're going to go straight to Punisher. It's going to be, you understand their motivation, and there's a small part in all of us that goes, yeah, bad people getting comeuppance. But if you took the Punisher and put him in the real world, you'd be like, oh, well, maybe this isn't the way. Maybe this is too far. Like the real world, walking down our street, real world.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like the one good grace of the Batman being in our world is the fact is that he does still have to abide by the rule that he doesn't use guns and he doesn't kill. So that is literally the only saving grace. It does open you up to a lot more others. It still opens you up to torture and maiming and that kind of stuff. Like you can live without your arms and legs, kind of thing. Yeah. Punisher in our world, they exist. They're just psychos. Like they are literally like with a slight moral compass kind of thing directing them towards bad people. But like they exist in our world and are constantly thrown in prison, or don't make it there because of their actions. But it's interesting to say the fact because we have vigilantes in our world.
Yes.
Seattle is a famous haven of the vigilante. There's a famous vigilante who lives there. I can't remember his name, but that's a kind of like that's not even a real world one for us in a kind of equivalent to Batman. It's the fact is that that vigilante is a normal person. No, like I don't know his. I don't think anyone knows his actual true identity, kind of thing. But if you had someone like Batman who had the means, as you say, the dollars to go behind to back him up, like a company that essentially he sort of embezzles stuff into.
Yeah, true, actually.
Uh, that's the Christopher Nolan more one than anything else. He does build a lot of stuff in the other portrayals. But anyone like you're talking about, that's an awful thing to think about. Is literally that's like Jeff Bezos going around in like a mech suit kicking the shit out of people.
Weirdly, I was gonna go Elon Musk, but I think Bezos would be really interesting from a from a just stature point of view. I think the other side of this, we keep talking about Batman, but that's one half of the coin. Your portrayal of Bruce Wayne has to change as you go from light to dark, or I shouldn't say light to dark, as you go from fantasy to reality, or closer to reality. Because the Bruce Wayne of the TV show, let's say, that could be an interesting, if sexist by today's standards because of the times, not squeaky clean if you look back now, but I think we all know that in context, that was then, this is now. Just taking Ben Affleck as a good example. His Bruce Wayne is my favorite Bruce Wayne. There's something about he carries the underlying rage around as Bruce Wayne, as the photo that's on screen. But he's also a quite believable billionaire, and quite believable as a person of so many means that it means nothing to him. It doesn't even register with him, except that he knows that everybody else is aware that he's super rich. Now, that's when you're coming towards reality. What about in the real world? You've got problems like embezzlement. You've got problems like being that super famous, making being Batman impossible. The idea of anybody living a full dual life where both of those lives are super famous, that asks a lot of questions about the ego, the mind, and how well adjusted that person is. So if it was Elon Musk, who is already, not picking on you here, Elon, specifically, but you've definitely got some attention-seeking vibes to you now and again, for whatever reason, be that business motivated or not, to then simultaneously be a infamous vigilante by night. Yeah, I'd say therapy's in order.
But here's an interesting thing, just about your portrayal of Bruce Wayne kind of thing, especially in the real world. I understand from an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos kind of thing, because they're very companies in the public eye, because they're public consumer product companies. We know their names, kind of thing.
Yes.
But if you look at Wayne Enterprises is essentially a heavy industries company, so they sell to companies. So I don't know any of the CEOs of heavy industry companies, like, kind of thing.
Bad time for me to admit that I do, because almost all of them have some part of the automotive world. But I know your point is only ruined by me being weird. No, but you're right. I get your point. We don't necessarily know who the head of even Johnson & Johnson or something like that is. Massive companies. Yeah, it's a good point.
So like the Bruce Wayne elements of it kind of thing is that the problem with today and in our world is social media would still be able to capture him, as in like if he did any kind of like eccentric things, which is for some strange reason what Alfred and other people forced him into doing, because that's what rich billionaire playboys do, kind of thing, like the Tony Stark kind of element to it, which is you need to be eccentric and stuff like that because it throws people off the scent, kind of thing. So you would still have that kind of element to it, that if he like in Batman versus Superman, where he just bought the bank so that he could save Superman's like family home, you would still hear billionaire, like Wayne Enterprise purchases of, like, you'd still hear it in a business sense, and and if it's directly from a CEO's kind of command, I guess, because that's unusual.
It's true. So what lengths would somebody be going to in the real world? It adds a whole layer of not just subterfuge and covert living. It adds a real weird desire. If you have that much money, you can actually make the world a better place without going out. Because our world doesn't have a literal Joker or Penguin to the level that you're talking about in let's say the more fantastical versions of Batman. So why would a billionaire need to go to all of that trouble and all of that effort? Because how difficult it would be to remain anonymous. The mind boggles. So that definitely is scratching an itch. If you bring them into the real world, this is a more than just a drive. This is a need. They're compelled to do it. And if heavy violence, which would be the case in the real world, is part of it, I would definitely be asking some questions. I would be asking them to sit on a couch and have a deep, deep chat with somebody.
Oh yeah, like that's the thing. If you're able, if he is as rich, if the real world Bruce Wayne is as rich as Bruce Wayne in the comic books or movies or anything like that is, then yeah, he could. It's level of Bill Gates back in the '90s kind of like elements to it, which is like he has the famous rumor, which is he has more money than the world kind of thing. Then yeah, like you would be just like, well, you can definitely make the world a better place by just using your resources,
Yeah,
kind of thing. Why do you need to dress as a bat? And I think that's a very common question kind of thing with the Batman kind of thing. But back to your original point is, which is the actual mask? Is Bruce Wayne the mask or Batman? Because if Batman's the mask, then obvious, or if Batman's not the mask, Batman is the personality that actually exists, and Bruce Wayne is the mask, then it definitely makes sense of why he doesn't overly use his like he still does. Like Wayne Enterprises is still a good company in comparison to a lot of others, but it's still not doing the things that it needs to be doing.
Well, yeah, and look, you just made me sorry for laughing a moment ago. You just put something in my head that Bill Gates is the second richest planet on the planet, but also, do you remember ever seeing, and I know some of you out there will have seen this, Bill Gates can jump over a chair from a standing start. Have you ever seen him do that? It was one of the weirdest interviews in the world, but he's like, I can jump over this chair. It's okay, yes you can. That was the first sign. Batman's
That
real.
is true.
He's here. That was him showing off. He couldn't resist it. He wanted to show off a little bit of miniature parkour skills.
Yeah, his egomania kind of
That's it. Whew.
It came through a little bit
It's
more.
all becoming so clear. But you know what? I have one conspiracy theory I want to share with you, Paul, because I think I know what's behind all of this. Nobody has ever pointed out that there's actually nothing wrong with Bruce Wayne at all that hasn't been done to him. And it wasn't just a tragedy. The person that created Batman wasn't whoever killed his parents. And it wasn't his compulsion and his drive. They were hiding in plain sight. Their name is Alfred. Yeah. Think about it. Follow the line and the corkboard with me. Alfred has been there the whole time, shaping this poor child and trying to help him. Where secretly Alfred knows that he wouldn't have the skills. This is Mr. Glass. This is broken all over the place. He is creating his own vigilante super killer, and the only thing he couldn't do, because of the goodness in Bruce Wayne's heart, is convince him to break that last rule. And he's going to keep pushing. Alfred is going to keep pushing until he does. Because let's face it, Alfred wants to create a killing machine because Alfred's the real psycho, Bruce is the real victim, and the Batman is just the tool in between. I rest my case. This is over. We can all go home.
Like, that is... I also love, by the way, that you have Michael Gore's Alfred up there.
Yeah, and I have a joke about the hand gesture that I'm not going to make either. It just makes him look even more evil, to be fair. So, like, let's move on from that.
But that's an interest. It's an interesting thing having someone pull the strings to kind of like direct his rage and his intelligence and stuff like that towards a vigilante-esque kind of person, which makes sense, kind of thing. Which is, I know that we're not talking about the new Batman that much, but do you think who do you think is the so far, without seeing Andy Serkis's portrayal of Alfred? Who do you think is the best Alfred so far? Because you have Michael Caine, Sean Pettiway, who's the one from Gotham.
Yeah.
Which you have Jeremy Irons from the DC ones. And then you have Michael Gore, who's the you also have you have Michael Gore, who's the one from the Michael
from the TV show.
No, Michael Gore is the one from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yes.
So he's the one with Mr. Freeze, and
you're thinking of the guy from the 89, Batman 89.
Yeah, so who's that?
You know, if we did any homework, this wouldn't happen. But this is why we get to help. We get to phone a friend. Audience who are watching, please stick it in the chat. Who's my favorite? You know what? I think Andy Serkis will be interesting, but I hate to be kind of obvious about it. I think Michael Caine brought a bit to it for me. I think he brought not just the sadness, he also brought the kind of I can see him having not just a withering look, but getting a wee bit pissed off now and again. I think Michael Caine was my most rounded Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Oh man,
because it's not Jeremy Irons. I don't think, as much as Jeremy Irons is the one that, like my theory, Jeremy Irons is the portrayal where he's like, I'm going to take control of some guns and I'm going to start shooting things. I'm going to be remote piloting bat wings and killing stuff because Batman's not killing for me because I have a bloodlust. Sorry, Alfred.
Are you saying that Jeremy Irons' portrayal of Alfred is the one that is more portraying the shaping of Batman into
the true Alfred?
I really like Jeremy Irons as Batman. I think he plays well with Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I think that because that's also a really important point. But I think I do like Michael Caine's Christopher Nolan's or Christopher Bale's Alfred. I really do. Sean Pettiway, he's really good in Gotham. I like him he seems like they portray him well as a surrogate father kind of character, which is really, really cool. So I'd say Michael Caine's one of my favorites, kind of thing. And I'm interested in seeing, because it's important. It's important that you get the balance of Alfred with your Batman Bruce Wayne character.
Yeah,
which is an interesting kind of one.
And you know what? And I'm going to jump off my Alfred is the psycho behind it all truck. Just one last one. They've made every variation of Batman that they can think of so far. Why not do a whodunit style ending at some stage in their next portrayal? Whenever they pick their next Batman, write that into your story, so that at the end you can show all the times that Alfred was secretly there doing things, and make Alfred actually the Joker, or the Riddler, or whatever. I'm just offering Hollywood some crazy ideas that will never work. Paul, can we take a little run over the comments, because we haven't checked in for a while? I want to say, Derpy Gaming, thank you for not spoiling anything, and also great to have you here. I see Popculture and Ben have been at it. Now, Ben, welcome, dude. Welcome. But you've nailed something there. He's got one rule and he's getting very close to breaking it. I'm wondering, because I haven't heard, but I'm wondering if it will be broken by accident in this movie. Will they, omit something and have it be, well, actually he doesn't know if he's killed or not, and that's part of his guilt or turmoil? Because they're pouring an awful lot into this movie. It is 3 hours long.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they'll ever. I don't think they can break that golden rule thing.
Not that he killed, but that he has it's lack of clarity that somebody dies and he doesn't know if it was to do with what had happened with him. I wonder if they'll go, because that's as close as you can go. I think that's walking right up to the line, licking it with your tongue and walking away again. If you know what I mean. That's
the don't have to save you thing with Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul in Christopher Bale's. Like that's the
Yeah,
closest you can do, which is like I don't have to save you.
yeah,
Like it's borderline like breaking the rule because
yeah. It's a bit of a
by
trolley
leaving him
problem, all
there,
right. Yeah, is he? Is he responsible by
yeah.
doing nothing? So sorry, Paul. Pick out some comments there. Distracted us again.
Batman or Bruce Wayne as the Mask changes in each movie. I don't believe so. I think that's where my I don't believe the mask ever drops. I think it's always portrayed as Bruce Wayne being the. I would like to see what examples do you have of Bruce Wayne being the main personality to being the mask, because I think Batman is always the main personality kind of thing.
Well, I'm almost trying to
Now,
think of the ones that we forget. The Val Kilmer and George Clooney Batman. They're often overlooked. I think there's probably some ambiguity in there, but those movies are so all over the place that it's hard to say if there would be any subtlety.
well, I feel like you have to break between is their portrayal of Bruce Wayne better than their portrayal of Batman?
Ah, well, yeah, true.
Because I think that Christian Bale's portrayal of Bruce Wayne was very good, but I hate his portrayal of Batman.
Yeah,
And I like Ben Affleck's portrayal of Bruce Wayne and Batman kind of thing.
yeah,
I think he draws the line all the way through the two characters. Michael Keaton, I think, also does that as well.
for sure. Like, there'll never be a case, I think, for me where Michael Keaton isn't in the conversation for top two. Because for me right now it is Affleck. I think possibly the same as you. Affleck is the on balance over the both sides of the character, but Michael Keaton's a close second. Also,
Yeah.
I want to call it that Ben's just said, dare we say it, is Alfred the first Batman before Bruce? So we need to get Hollywood on this. If we can have him actually be an original Batman, then try and recreate Batman in his own image. Whereas originally it was a psycho, he wasn't actually a vigilante. Sorry, I'm going to leave it go now. I promise. In fact, I'll even get him off the screen. It's because I keep seeing him and I keep thinking, that man's behind it.
Yeah, so the movie Equalizer deals with the question really well, which is his violence actually something that he needs? Is a compulsion? Denzel can't sleep in it. I agree that I think there is a compulsion there for him.
Yeah.
Phoenix Jones is the vigilante name. Thanks, Ben, for that.
And Ben's also said that Alfred threw threw Bruce down the well, essentially. Who put the well there? I've created something here. I've created a movement. Might be one I want to own. Kane had a true backstory, says Popculture. Yeah, I think his Alfred got more time to breathe than most of the others, and I think maybe that's why I like it. A more rounded and more nuanced character in the Alfred realms, let's say, because they didn't allow for anything more than maybe the odd kind of poignant, sad father figure line for a lot of the others.
Yeah, I agree, because he has the three. He gets the most screen time as as an Alfred, because I think the one for Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, I think that's the same person, but it's only two.
Yeah. Well, also remember you have Morgan Freeman's Lucius Fox. So they could spread around. That's the other thing. I think it gave room for the Alfred character, because they had spread more of the, not the father figure, but the other influences around a bit more.
Yeah, and also you didn't need to lump into the fact that Alfred was not only a father figure, as you say, but he's also a genius, like engineer and medic kind of thing. You can at least spread the knowledge kind of, or the support structure, the logistics kind of area towards two characters rather than one kind of thing. Because it does feel, oh, Alfred helped me build the Batcave, and you're just like, and helped me build like all the tech and stuff like that, and you're just like, okay, Alfred's like, yeah, I can definitely see now why Alfred might be the first Batman. And then when you bring in Lucius Fox kind of thing, it's just like, okay, cool. Michael Caine's portrayal of Alfred seems a little bit more grounded in realism, in the sense that he's not an all-rounder kind of like I am everything support.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Um,
And you know what? Pop culture's answered your question. It's Clooney and Kilmer. I kind of as I suspected, where and I can kind of see it for the Kilmer one, where Wayne seemed like the mask as opposed to the Batman, and I think that was a very like
well,
Kilmer's portrayal was very interesting. I think the Clooney films I can't even get involved in, if you know what I mean, because there were too many issues for me to overlook. But the Kilmer one, his portrayal was very much I'm not at ease as Bruce Wayne. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that was a switch, but I can definitely see where you're going, Pop Culture. I definitely see where you're going with that. I wouldn't necessarily be on the bus with you, but I can definitely see where it's going.
see, that's my but that's where there's my question. George Clooney, like Batman and Bruce Wayne are awful. So I don't know. I might the reason that I bring it up is I
Yeah.
don't know if that's an intentional decision on the actor to make the Batman the mask and have Bruce Wayne as the real personality. I think that just might be bad writing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
and it's so hard to separate at this point.
it
Let's face it though. If we want to talk about psychotic Bruce Waynes, I think Michael Keaton did a great job of making Bruce Wayne seem unhinged when he wasn't Batman. Like my favorite bit, the poker and smashing stuff over the fireplace. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. There's a real sense because Michael Keaton is such a bloody good actor, and I don't think he'll ever be appreciated for just how good he is. He brought a real, not just intelligence, but almost a malevolence to the Bruce Wayne. There was a certain, not nasty edge, but almost evil edge undercutting it. You know, the Keaton stares, the pauses and the thoughts, and the just even the cadence of speech at certain times as Bruce Wayne. It's why you didn't need to have Batman on screen at all times, because he was being a great dark Bruce Wayne.
see. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I definitely agree that Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne is quite well portrayed, and that darkness is there. I feel that Bruce Wayne would be that dark though. That's
Yeah,
why I like Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne, because although he seems approachable from a work perspective of kind of having to approach the CEO of a company and talk to him, I don't think I'd walk up to him even if I was like another company CEO or another famous person. If Bruce Wayne was in the room, I definitely feel like I'd be just like, I am not walking up to that guy. Like he emanates a kind of like, I don't want to talk to you.
it,
Like he's very charismatic. I will say that. Like he is
yeah,
a charismatic person, and the kind of mix between the Superman movie Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, where it's like the fight scene in Metropolis is kind of raging, and he's running to try help people. I think that's a kind of good ingrained kind of like Batman and Bruce Wayne kind of want to help people. That's like he wants to be a hero, or he wants to help people. That
yeah.
not that he wants to be a hero, kind of thing. But I would never approach him. I would never approach him to talk to him about anything. I definitely feel like his kind of emanation of kind of leave me alone. I don't want any is really important, because my problem with Christian Bale, although I really like him portrayed as Bruce Wayne, he's like he tries to play up the playboy aspect of it, and like you'd be having everybody come up and talk to you, and you would be noticed. You'd be noticed when you're missed from a from a party and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Whereas if Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne came to a party and then disappeared, you'd be just like, that's Bruce. It's the Irish
Yeah.
goodbye that he does.
He has a brooding nature to him, which is again important for the character. You want to be brooding, not petulant. And I do agree with you that, because let's face it, the Nolan Batman films are the best Batman films. It's just that Christian Bale isn't the best Bruce or Batman of all the choices. Not saying he was bad. I'm saying he was great.
No.
It's just Affleck was better but got worse films. But it's also one of the reasons, Paul, there's two things I'm going to say, and you're going to understand both of them straight away because you know me. I'm really annoyed that Tom Hardy was Bane for one simple reason. He has what you just described about Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne. Tom Hardy has that vibe in real life for me. When he's doing interviews, Like, he's one of those people that I think is one of the most incredible actors of our time. And yet, if I saw him somewhere and it was even just me and him, I probably wouldn't speak to him. And it's not because of starstruckness, it's because there is something to Tom Hardy. That intensity and that underlying, again, he seems unbelievably dedicated, even just when he's standing still saying nothing. Quite the Batman trait, quite the Bruce Wayne trait. He does seem like he has just an underlying edge of passion, be that anger or not, who knows. Like, he would have made a fabulous Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like, I think he's the all-time great miss for me when it comes to being in a franchise but in the wrong role.
I agree. I do agree that he would be a great. He could portray a great Bruce Wayne. I would like to see his Batman. That's the only thing. But a Bruce Wayne, I think he would be great. As you say, it is very hard for him to. It's very hard for you to approach Tom Hardy. I get your point of, like, if we were in the same room, I don't know if I talk to him. I would definitely scooch my chair a little bit further away before probably talking to him, because I think he doesn't suffer fools lightly in his personal life, kind of thing. So, like, betraying a person that, like, doesn't suffer them at all, would feel, it's just like you're just releasing his inner demon, kind of thing.
And don't get me wrong, he seems like a great guy. I watched his he did a north, kind of an Arctic trip with an old Formula One driver. And he just, he's being a lovely, affable, brilliant guy. But every time, if you just pause it and you look at Tom Hardy's face, it's like, I would believe that he could have an alter ego at night. He's one of the few people on the planet outside of anything else. He's one of the few famous people that I look at and go, yeah, I believe he could lead a double life, and that he would be dedicated, passionate, and scary as all hell. So why did they not make him Batman instead of wasting him on Bane, or wasting Bane on him, whatever way you want to look at it?
He is not wasted on Bane. I really like him as Bane. I think that they waste him on Bane when they don't make him what he is.
It was a neutered Bane, though, in a lot of ways. That was, yeah.
But I think I don't think his portrayal of Bane is in any way bad.
No,
I think what they did to the character has made it bad.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I think it's definitely made a sour taste in our mouth when you realize that Bane's not Bane. They've essentially made Tom Hardy's Bane the Bane from the Batman Forever, or the Batman and Robin.
Movies.
Yeah, which really annoys me as that movie is just a stain on movie history.
It really is.
Like, even George Clooney doesn't like it. If you look at our lists of best Batmans, you'll see he apologizes for the film.
And I still think he shouldn't, because it's not his fault. Should we check, because I'm realizing that we're going long on time. Should we check the comments? So
I just saw there that Hardy Taboo Show will support you on the Bruce Wayne idea. So, I do think he would be really good.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, Popculture, here it is. Yeah, Keaton Bruce just standing in chaos in the first film was just classic. You know what? Yes. Actually, a lot of people don't give Batman '89 the credit it deserves for being incredibly well made. That's the other thing. Keaton brought a lot to it, but he wasn't alone. And I think some of the shot choices, and obviously the set design, which was gorgeous, glorious, and luscious. It's a classic that people are sleeping on, because people aren't going back and rewatching that unironically, and they really should.
Batman Returns, the second of the Michael Keaton films, having him up against Danny DeVito's Penguin and Christopher Walken's what is that company name? I can't remember the company name. And then Pfeiffer's Catwoman. There's such a good balance there, because those are heavy, big names, kind of thing. Now I know Danny DeVito was more kind of in the kind of comedy-esque role, kind of thing. But Michael Keaton on his own against their personalities in a kind of counterbalance as the main character is really nicely done,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So like I can't like it's such a like the Tim Burton films are just are really good.
We're starting to go off topic because I've noticed something. Once you start mentioning actors or actresses that I think are amazing, I can get all kind of doesn't everybody not understand that Tom Hardy's amazing?
Yeah, no,
George
I
Clooney is
definitely get
amazing
you.
too, by the way, folks. Just in case the Batman chat ever casts his aspersions too far on him,
Yeah.
George Clooney is a hell of a career. But Paul, if we were to say going from fantasy to reality, I think Bruce Wayne slash Batman. I will not say psycho, but I will say troubled to the edge of unacceptable. If you know what I mean, troubled to the edge of unacceptable as you go from fantasy to reality. Not so troubled as in more crime fighting hero in fantasy. The closer you make it to reality, the more it just has to become less and less and less and less and less and less acceptable. But I'm not going to full on say that the guy's got a bloodlust because Alfred did it.
I guess on my thing, I think that he has. I think the level of psychopath in him. I do think that he's a psychopath. I just think that he has one moral code that keeps him from going over that edge. Which I think, one, is what makes him Batman, and two, what makes the Joker and his relationship so important. But because the Joker wants him to break his own rule by killing him. But I think the level of psychopath kind of increases as you go closer towards reality, kind of thing. I think the more traits of a serial killer and a psychopath kind of start bleeding into his character, kind of thing. So like, because like, yeah, like just it has to, in a sense, to make him survive even in a reality, in a realistic reality. To make him survive doing what he does, he needs to be a little bit, like, not a lot
Unhinged.
of a psychopath. Yeah,
he has to be unhinged, and I think unhinged is maybe the way I have always viewed the Batman character, because for me primarily, and we've talked about this before, I love that there's a Bruce Wayne and a Batman because I couldn't give a crap about Clark Kent, and I really don't really care that much about Superman most of the time. But it's because Bruce Wayne is compelling and Batman is compelling. But also, I love the fact that his primary superpower, let's say, is not just being rich, it's being a really good, smart detective. He's Sherlock Holmes with some really cool toys and a lot of backing. And that speaks to me. But Paul, can I bring up the one thing that we didn't? I found it. I found the Happy Batman.
Oh, did you?
Yep, there's a Happy Batman. Happy Batman in Lego. There you go, folks. I don't want to end this on just a completely dour note. There is a lovely, smiling little Lego Batman. There is a future for Happy Bruce and Happy Batman. I don't think Will Arnett should ever do a live-action Batman because I think he'd be brilliant and terrible all at the same time because I love Will Arnett.
I would love this.
It would be so weird. It would be so weird. Actually, check out Murderville if you haven't already, folks. It's a bit of crack. It's on Netflix. Have you been watching any of that? Have you caught some?
I watched the first episode.
Yeah, it's a bit of crack. They're not all winners, but yeah, there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah, it's a problem with an improvised X show that they're but it's a good when it hits, it's good. It's great.
Yeah. When it hits, it's home runs. There's a few swings and misses, but yeah. So, Paul, how do we throw this over to people and then walk our way out of what has been essentially one of our weirder episodes that was based around just a single idea of, can we have a chat about whether or not Batman's a hero or a psycho? Because it turns out he's both. Depending on the day and the portrayal.
Give us your idea of kind of like where does the different Batman kind of like slide on the kind of like darker psychotic kind of, I guess, mentality. So like number one is like he is the most psychotic you could be, right down to your lower kind of numbers. I also think that Popculture said you need to do a rank your Batmans and rank your Waynes. We've done the Batmans.
Yeah, but I think after we see the next one, we could do a redo. We could have a go. It's because that was one of our first videos. It's been a few years. and I love the idea of ranking the Waynes separately. That's cool.
We could do that in the same, or we could separate it.
No, we can do it in the same one. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be next week or not though, because it depends what's on the docket. But I'm on for that, Paul. If you are.
Yeah, very certainly. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then if there's any other characters that you would like us to kind of dissect a little bit in a kind of real world context kind of thing, like I would actually like to do Superman now that you've mentioned. I know you don't give a shit about him. I would like to at least have a conversation about him, because I think there's some things I miss. But that's all. But if there's other ideas that you would like us to do, or any recommendations that you'd like to see us do, leave us down in the comments down below. Which goes, we always like to take on some of the fans made things, even if there's like the littlest thing on a character or anything that you want us to kind of dissect or look at. Please do.
Have mouth will chat. That's the way I see it. So Paul, I'm going to do some quick mentions before we go. We got to give a shout out to It Takes Two, and we got to give a shout out to Popculture 33. Takes Two podcast link is always in the description down below. It's a cool podcast with you can kind of tell by the name. It's two people, but also a great little theme of looking at movies that are in some way similar, connected through genre or style, topic, or type, and it's a great show. Definitely check them out. Popculture 33, get on over to his YouTube channel. One of our most challenging commenters tonight, Ben. I would say you, but since you jumped on board with me, that Alfred's really the psycho behind everything. Popculture, you threw out some great stuff there about. I'm going to be thinking now, and I'm going to go back and watch the Val Kilmer Batman. I know I am, because I actually really want to start thinking about that now. So that's a sign of how good his channel is. Makes our channel better. And finally, you've got, what's it called again? Is it Homebrew Quest, Paul? I don't know. Yeah. You might have something to do with that, I believe. So take it away, and also don't forget, give a little pump for the possibility to meet people in the flesh.
Yeah, so which is also Ben, who's been in the comments as well, is actually part of the Homebrew Quest gang. We do Homebrew Quest, which is a D&D entertainment show, which goes on YouTube. It's based on Irish folklore. It's a homebrew show. It's also to help people who haven't played D&D before to kind of get into the game. We also create the world using alcoholic beverages that we are currently drinking with their names. So
is this Irish? Did you say?
Yeah. So like I was drinking a rum called Kraken, and I was able to summon a Kraken into a fight, kind of thing. So that's the kind of layer that we do.
I have a hot sauce that's like based on nuclear weaponry. If you want to start drinking that while you play,
I don't know, will that work? I'll have to ask the DM. We are going to be at Dublin Comic Con on the 13th, doing a panel at 3 p.m. in the I think it's the Geek Ireland panel room, which could come along to that if you're in Dublin on the 13th of March, and you got tickets to Dublin Comic Con. We'll be there to talk about the entertainment element of RPG tabletop games, and also I'll be plugging this a lot. I'll be just like, so I do this other show, much better than Homebrew Quest.
Oh, well, I thought you were saying you'd be plugging Homebrew. Don't be plugging us. No, come on. We don't need it, because we have cornered the market in really picking on one particular Batman film or two particular Batman films. So we're gonna be famous for our one unique selling point. I think we do have an answer in the hot sauce, though. That hot sauce will definitely work, especially because I'll get to watch you on the internet drink hot sauce just for access to it.
I have to drink a whole pint of it.
I don't even think they sell it in the pint, because it's so insane. Anyway, Paul, I've absolutely loved this episode. It was definitely one of our weirdest ones. It's one of our least organized. I think everybody can tell that this turned into just a random thought chat. We've been apart for a few weeks. That's why there have been no live shows. So we're warming back up. I would love you all to join us next week whatever we're doing. We're going to be more warmed up, talking our usual brand of shite, as they say. And I think on that note, Paul, I've been Bruce.
And I've been Batman.
And we've been Hear Us Out. Did that work?
Is that how you want it? Do you want me to say Wayne? Or
No,
I was
no,
Alfred.
I think Batman works better. Anyway, I've been Patrick,
And I've been Paul.
and we've been here saying we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
See you later, guys.